Hey everyone, welcome to the channel again. And in the previous video, we spoke about creating an intent, like your own, set of statement that the chatbot would like to, chatbot will extract for you or understand for you. And in that, it was more about simple statements, but there was no data extraction made out of the statement, right? But in this video, we're going to talk about entities, which will help you extract data from your statement. Like for example, you want to ask about something specific and you want to ask about a bunch of things, like there could be a number of possibilities of parameters, right? For example, let's assume that we're going to create a new chatbot for the statistics, extract statistics out of this corona issue that is a recent outbreak. So assume that you want to ask about number of cases in China or number of cases in India. So India and China are the countries that can be extracted out of the statement, and it could be any countries for that matter, right? So you don't have to train the chatbot for different countries, and all you can do is create an intent out of that specific statement, and that will automatically give you the country, and you can perform the other operations from there. So in order to do that, so let me create a new intent called COVID-19, and I'm going to create a simple statement like how many cases in China, right? So now this statement can also be, the user could also ask how many cases in India or how many cases in US or how many cases in UAE, anything of that sort. So in order to make the chatbot train or identify, you need to classify which part of the, which part of the statement is should be extracted as a parameter. So assume that here in our case, China could be any country, right? Instead of China, it could be any country. So for that, you need to make it as a country code. So in order to make it as, you need to make it as a country code. So here, the country code could be, country code is a default entity that Dialogflow is already trained to. So you don't have to train it manually. So here I can just select it as country code. It automatically, came it in the drop. So since it is already recognizing it, so give it as country code. So this geo country code will give you all the details about what the country code, the code number, and the short code and everything. So whenever you create it, you can train it and then test it out. So now the chatbot is trained to create, understand the statement, how many cases in a country. So when you ask for it, many cases in, say, China, yeah, it extracts the country code saying that it is CHN, the China, and it gives you the alpha code and name of the country and everything, right? So similarly, if you can also ask the same question for India, it gives you the Indian code. And if you ask for, say, UAE, it'll give you the UAE. So it can understand for any combination of country, any country, right? So assume that you want to, another scenario could be how many cases today, right? So you would like to, extract the date out of it. Say how many cases today. Here it is not a country, but it is a date. So when you say, it automatically categorizes as a date time. So when you train again, so make sure that you always train it so that the bot is ready to parse the new statement or new training phases that you gave. So here I'm going to ask how many cases today. Here the bot will understand today is a date, and then it gives you the date time out of it. It parses the verb or the word date today, and then gives you the date time. So whatever date today. So for example, it is 22nd March. It gives you the 22nd March date time. If you ask for yesterday, the Dialogflow is trained enough to understand the context and then gives you the corresponding date time. So today, or even you can, if you furthermore, 2 days before, hopefully it should capture, yeah, it gives you 2 days before, 20th. So Dialogflow is already trained to consider these edge cases and gives you the date. Now, we understood how to create entities out of a statement, right? What about multiple entities? When you want to club both today and China, or country and the date. So you can create another statement, how many cases in China today. Right? So it automatically categorizes the country and the date from the statement since you already gave. When you train it again, you'll be able to parse that as well. how many cases in India yesterday. I'm giving an completely unrelated statement, still it is able to find it, right? So it gives both the data as a parameter and in the corresponding name. So assume that you want to change this name to a different name, right? So you want the parameter to be a little different. You can still do it by going to the actions and parameters, change the parameter name to whatever convention that you follow. So for example, I'm going to create a JavaScript application out of this. So I'm creating camel case. So assume date time, right? Save it. And gives you the corresponding, I think the training is still happening, so it is not able to extract the value. Once the training is done, yeah, here you go. So it automatically categorizes into a different name, and then corresponding parameters are extracted. Now another scenario would be, you want to get statistics of different countries, right? So for example, China as well as India for yesterday. So you need to make it as a list. So if you make it as a list, it can collect multiple entities out of it. So if you don't do it, if you ask for cases in China and India, it always gets the first country, first entity, recognized entity. It's not giving China. So if you make it as a list and save it, that's all you have to do. It extracts, let it complete. So it extracts both China and India and give it as an array. So here the training is completed. So let's ask it. It gives you an array of China as well as India, right? So that's how you can extract multiple entities of same type in a statement and give to the corresponding backend or in the future, right? So now, if you want to make it country as mandatory, for example, you don't want to ask for assume that you want make sure that the user gives you the country code, and you want to make it mandatory, just like the way you do in any of the web forms, you make a field mandatory. Dialogflow also provides such a feature where you can set a entity as a mandatory one, and the Dialogflow will not complete the context until it gets the data. So here, assume that I'm making the country as mandatory. So you always need to give a country to get the statistics. So assume that I make it mandatory. So until you give a country, the Dialogflow will not complete the context. For example, this statement, right? How many cases today? Even though we are trained, so when you ask the same, it will give you what is the country code. If you see, it is automatically coming up with a question asking for the country code, and the user has to enter it. So whenever it asks for it, the next obvious reply from the user should be the country name. So when they give it, it automatically captures that country and completes the context and then gives you the parameter. Right? So this is how you create a mandatory entity in Dialogflow. So you can also come up with different questions. So assume that whenever you ask, okay, not this one. Whenever you ask how many cases today, it is asking for a country code, right? So you want to change this question. You want to make it much more polite or something like that. You can create custom prompts for country code. Like whenever the user doesn't enter the country code, you can create your own custom questions like, may I know which country you would like to get information for, right? So now when you train it, save it. After the training, it will ask this question. So you can have multiple prompts for the same same parameter. So when I ask again, how many cases today, it will ask for the custom question. So you can have n number of questions in that. So until and unless you give the context, you give all the data that is asked by the bot, it will not complete the statement. So whereas you can ask how many cases in China, it will answer. It will not wait for today or the date time, right? So it will complete this complete the intent. So that's how Dialogflow's entities work. So I hope all these things are clear. So let's now in the next video we'll talk about how do we create custom entities and map it with your own domain specific. For example, if you want to extract a specific data and you don't know how to the Dialogflow is not trained to extract the data. You can still train your own chatbot, your own project to contain those information as as an entity, and then give it as a parameter. So we'll be talking about that in the next video. Thank you so much, and do like the video.